So, Dave Helman, you are the Cowboys expert with all the knowledge. Talk to me. What's at stake for the Cowboys?
I think how seriously we take this team is at stake. Like, their status as a contender for me. When you make the short list in each conference of teams that we should be talking about as Super Bowl worthy, I think the Cowboys' placement on that list is at stake here. Like, if they lose this game, it continues a really troubling trend dating back to around this time last year. If I can take you back a year, Cowboys came out of the gates hot as hell. Yep. They started 6-1, and Dak looked like an MVP candidate. That is not an exaggeration. I got it right here.
MVP?
Yeah.
Right. It is accurate.
First 7 weeks of the season, against teams that made the playoffs, he converted 75% of his passes.
Dak did?
Averaged 360 yards per game, threw 9 touchdowns to 2 picks, put it on your Birds, like in a bad way. In a bad way. But after that, he hurt his calf. He missed some time, ironically missed the game against the Vikings, and it didn't look the same. The full body of work, if you don't include the season finale against Philly, where they also put it on the Birds for whatever that's worth, he's 2-4. The Cowboys, Dak, however you want to phrase it, they're 2-4 in these types of games against teams that made the playoffs. Obviously, we don't know who makes the playoffs this year, but they've already lost to the Bucs with him playing one of the worst games of his career. And then they turned around and they lost to a Green Bay team that doesn't even look like a playoff team. So if I'm going to sit here and give them the benefit of the doubt and say the Cowboys are going to be there in the postseason and they're a team that we should take seriously, this is a team that's going to win their division. We're even more confident of that now after Green Bay lost that game. I need to see a little bit more because it hasn't been there. They walked it off in overtime against the New England team that made the playoffs. That was the last time that they really looked like a juggernaut.
Joy, what's at stake?
I think it's stability within the organization. If they lose this game, not only is everything that he is saying come true, but then Dak is 2-3 since he's been back. And the Cooper.
Yeah. Where's he at?
A little faster. Yeah. Whether it's reasonable or not, you got to win or you lose. And in this situation, if he loses to the Vikings, who, as you said, are a real team, they're going to win their division, it's going to start to feel bleak very quickly. Yep. Jerry's going to start putting some comments out there. And as you know, that building in Dallas is going to get real chaotic really quickly. And then it's really hard to get it back on the rails. So there's a lot at stake. But to me, the Cowboys have been, for the most part, pretty quiet. Just winning games, had a bad loss, but still able to put up points. It's not like it was a blowout. If they lose this game to the Vikings, things are going to start to get hectic in Dallas.
Wait, was that stat true about Dak?
It is.
MVP?
Yeah. That was good last year.
No, he was playing really well.
Yeah.
For the first 7 weeks. Now, we can talk about the last 9 or 10.
I know, but, Rocky Balboa, right, when he was fighting Apollo Creed, Apollo Creed always starts fast, right? And he's like, hey, Adrian, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Now, listen, what's at stake, I think, for this game for the Cowboys? Keeping up with the division. If you look at it, so my Eagles, we're 8-1. I don't know if you guys knew that. But anyway, 8-1. You got the Giants are 7-2. Yep. Cowboys are 6-3. Now they could easily be 6-4. Washington goes out there and gets a W. They're 6-5. So they can kind of lose this division and go and way down, go from 2 to almost last. So I don't know. I mean, we need that Dak you talked about, the MVP Dak.
They do. They do.
If they don't have him, I think they got to call Cooper Rush.
Man, I think there's a lot of optimism at stake. A lot of optimism at stake. Dave, think about this, and I challenge everybody at home to remember. About week 5, the Cowboys were in the midst of a 4 or 5 game win streak, week 5, week 6. Outside of the NFC East, it was bleak for the NFC. Rodgers and the Packers, terrible. Bucks were struggling. Yeah. Seahawks hadn't figured it out yet. The Niners didn't know who their quarterback was. Everything was chaotic there. The Rams were still bad. The Cardinals were still bad. You flip to the other side, the Falcons struggling. Jameis Winston had just gone down. They were stuck with Andy Dalton. The Carolina Panthers had Sam Darnold. He's gone. Had Baker Mayfield. He just got hurt. Just fired their coach. 5 weeks into the season, it was the Eagles. It was the Cowboys. It was the Giants standing by themselves. Right. And the Vikings were starting to rise. But the Vikings had taken a loss to the Eagles. It was bad. So everybody was like, the Vikings aren't even that good. But now you fast forward about 11 weeks into the season and you look around. Bucks riding a win streak. Seahawks look good. You keep looking around, the 49ers have won 2 in a row. You keep looking around, the Commanders just beat the Eagles. You look around, the Vikings have won 7 straight. Yeah. You look around, the Eagles are 8-1. You look around, the Cowboys have now lost a couple games. If you take snapshots of the early part of the season, look great for Dallas. Now, 11 weeks into the season, it can look really, really, really bad for Dallas if Dak does not get this under control quickly.
Which, this is going to be a hot take. I don't even necessarily, I don't need him to win the game. I need him to look good. I need Dak specifically to look good. That'll go a long way. Look, I'm not making this stuff up. Okay, beginning of last season, they go to Tampa Bay. They lose that game. But Dak throws for 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. He leads them downfield to kick a field goal. Tom Brady leads them back. It's a classic game. They go up to New England. They score 35 points. Dak throws 3 touchdowns and 445 yards. They walk off in overtime. They score 35 points. After the injury, 9 points on the road at KC, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Losing to Arizona, scoring 22 points. Dak throws for 226. Tampa Bay this year, Shady, your favorite stat line, 134 yards with no touchdowns and a pick. And he played better than that. He played better than that against Green Bay, but it still wasn't what we've seen from him at the peak of his potential. I need them to look like that. If they lose this game, they're 6-4. It's not great, but it's how you play. Now, it would be preferable if they could win. They keep pace with everybody else in the NFC East, but this team just hasn't looked the same to me since about the midway point of last season. I would love to see that.
What's more important, because you just brought up a phenomenal point, what is more important, a good loss or a bad win? Like Dak Prescott playing well and the Cowboys losing?
A bad win. They're not in the Eagles conversation for like being able to lose games. Not that they're not going to lose another game this season, but this is a game they really need to win. I don't know if I agree with you. If he puts up 400 yards and they still lose, we're going to be panicked about the Cowboys. Like, what else could they possibly do to keep up with good teams in the league? If Dak Prescott can throw for 400 yards and the Vikings still beat them, that was against Tampa Bay. That is a little bit different. Tampa Bay's got Tom Brady. Like, they've got Hall of Famers.
That's a good point.
On that
good
squad.
Point.
Like, there's some great players in the Vikings, but the Vikings are still very much unproven in a lot of ways. So I don't know that I can go with you there. I think they need to get this win, whether it's messy or pretty, but there's no pretty losses for the Dallas Cowboys, to me, at this point. Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.